Oh, we're on? I'm sorry, I'm still looking at a blank screen. Okay. All right, thank you. Good evening. This meeting is now called to order. This is the Public Safety Committee meeting for Monday, June 10th. I'm the chair, Councilman Yolanda McCoy, 6th District. At this time, I will call the roll for the members of the committee first. Councilwoman Xanthia Oliver. Councilwoman Shanae Darby.
Present.
Councilman Chris Johnson. Councilman James Spadola.
Present.
Councilman Albert Mills.
Present.
And Council President Trippy Congo.
Here.
All right. Thank you. So as a friendly reminder, only members of the committee shall be making any motions and seconding. All right, we actually only have, we have 2 items on our agenda this evening. We are going to make a little change. We're going to start with the ordinance first. All right, so we have an ordinance to amend Chapter 11 of the City Code to prohibit noise disturbances that target a particular residence. And the sponsor is Nathan Field. Mr. Field, were you going to speak to that matter or someone else?
Yes, I'll add a couple lines, and then
Okay.
Mr. Goff from the Law Department will mention it. So I just want to be clear. This is not this is about the issue of noise. It is not a restriction on the right to protest. It is simply balancing the right to protest with the rights of homeowners based on a number of cases that have been argued before the Supreme Court. It is regulating the issue of noise. And with that, I believe Mr. Goff from the Law Department can speak to the legislation.
What do you want me to say or stand?
It is your preference. Just please get to a mic. Yep, and then you can introduce yourself. Thank you.
Well, I mean, it's a pretty simple piece of legislation. There's not a lot of volume to it.
I'm sorry, Mr. Goff, if you can just introduce yourself and your
Okay.
title.
That's all right. My name's Bob Goff. I work for the Law Department. I'm the city solicitor in Wilmington. This legislation, as I've already indicated, is fairly simple. It is, I believe, constitutional. I echo Councilmember Field and his comments that it does not regulate protest or picketing and doesn't prohibit either of those things. It does not keep anyone from being anywhere on the street or in the public right-of-way to convey a message. However, what it does do is it prevents the use of noise to a focused or targeted residential address, wherever that might be. And it's based upon, or rather amends an existing ordinance which describes what a noise disturbance is. That is a disturbance that would affect the health and welfare of the members of the household where the disturbance is received, and would be unreasonably loud and disturbing to those individuals in the house. Any questions you might have for me, I'm happy to answer.
Okay. Just a moment, Mr. Goff. I'm sorry, was there any other council persons online that I was unable to acknowledge? I guess we don't have anyone here. Okay. All right, so
Councilman McCoy,
yes.
I'm sorry, it's Marcia. I believe you recognize Councilman Mills, right?
Yes, I did.
All right.
Okay. All right, thank you, Marshall. I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember White. My apologies. All right. All right, so council members, had any questions for Mr. Goff? Councilmember Darby.
No, I don't have any questions for him. I have a comment, though.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't need to ask him anything.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know if he was finished.
I'm
So,
finished. I just asked if you had any questions.
okay. You have any questions for him?
You may
Yeah,
ask your
so
question.
I received a call this morning from Councilmember Nathan Fields about this piece of legislation. And in his conversation to me, I didn't say much, I just listened. He mentioned that there was protesters who were really loud and disrupting people who were home, right? And he asked me if I would be in support of it, which will then allow for people not to make loud noises. The protesters, he said, specifically in our conversation, that he will not, he doesn't want them making loud noises in their neighborhoods for protesting. He actually mentions that they're at Senator Coon's house, right? He mentioned that on a call to me this morning. So when he told me that, I was just like, I don't want to limit people's rights to like protest anywhere or to be anywhere that you deem loud, too loud, or to make you uncomfortable in your neighborhood. And then he was like, oh yeah, they can protest at their office somewhere. And we know most of the time these elected officials are not in their offices, right? So then that would make protesting a little bit different. So in that conversation also, he mentioned that. He also mentioned Senator Coons. He mentioned the protesters. He said he can sympathize with them. My question to him was, instead of trying to put regulations and laws, and you mentioning the protesters on that call, instead of you putting in a law to try to regulate what they're doing, why don't you address Senator Coons to stop funding genocide? How about you and your neighbors go and do that? So that was my question to him, and he said, oh, that's all political stuff. I just want to protect people in their homes so that they don't hear loud noises. And I wonder, I guess it's reminding them that there's a genocide happening, you know, how every time they wake up. So for me, this piece of legislation, I'm a definite no to. This is going to regulate, there's also already regulations about protesters or loud noises for people when they are outside. So I'm going to bring that up for you guys to let you know that this exists already in regards to how you can protest, what sounds can, and how loud a sound can be between certain periods of time. Those things exist already for protesters, so there's already a limit on how loud you can be between a certain time. And then once you hit that time, between that time and that time, the noise that you can make decreases. I am not, if you want to talk about an inconvenience for protesters to be loud in those type of communities, because it's going to, you know, Senator Coons probably lives in a very decent white neighborhood, affluent economic people. To distract them is now a problem, but when it's an inconvenience to people who can't pay their water bills, when it's an inconvenience for poverty, I see you're voting no to those pieces of legislation. So I'm not voting for this piece of legislation. I'm not going to regulate where protesters or how loud they can be in a neighborhood.
Point of order.
Councilwoman.
This is not the
point of order.
Well, I said what I said. I'm done.
All right. As well, thank you. Is there any other council members who would like? Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Mr. Goff, this is not impacting the ability of people to protest. So there has been a series of protests related to events in Gaza, and that is what Councilmember Darby is referring to. This would not affect their ability. They can still show up. The only thing that this would do is that they cannot use the bullhorn, and it's balancing the rights of the right to protest with the rights of people all over the city to not have a protest beamed into their house. So they can still protest. The only difference is that they basically have to follow the noise rules while protesting.
So what this does is it doesn't affect anything. It's not content related. It doesn't have anything to do with what you're saying out on the street, what your sign might be, what your message might be. What it does is balance the First Amendment right to speech in a way that conveys a message to the public. But it also, at the same time, takes into account another right that all of us have under the Constitution, and that is the right to be to privacy in our own homes under the Fourth Amendment, the right to peace and tranquility, the right to be able to put your baby to sleep in the middle of the day or in the evening, the right to care for a parent, because these are the things that I've received, the complaints I've received from folks that are that have to put up with this day after day, hour after hour, people stationed outside of their home, screaming through bullhorns, playing loud bomb noises with the purpose, the clear purpose, to harass the individual in that thing. Now, it might be for a good cause, and that is certainly subject to public debate. But what's happening here is harassment. And so this is designed to, as narrowly as possible, focus in on the specific conduct that is making a loud and disturbing noise that affects the health and welfare of the people in those houses that are affected. Not just the elected officials, but those people near them who are subjected to this day after day after day. So, I mean, if you want to get a message out and protest, that's great. But there's the right here of people to be secure in their homes. And that's what the Constitution says, that's what's permitted under the Constitution, and that's what this law does.
All right, Councilman Spadola.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I consider myself a First Amendment absolutist, Mr. Goff. My high school senior yearbook was the famous free speech quote by Voltaire. I don't agree with a word you say, but I'll defend with my life your right to say it. So I look at this agnostic of the issue that's behind it, because in 10 years it'll be something else potentially. I look at this as strictly a noise issue. And I had outreach to you a while ago asking, I mean, how is conduct when it can trespass across real property boundaries, noise? I mean, how is that allowed as it is? So why is this ordinance even necessary? Similar to having a loud radio ordinance, similar to, if you want to bang pots and pans in your house, you can do that. But if I can hear that in my house, that noise is trespassing into my property, and therein lies the problem. So like what you said, it's not about the message. Whether you're banging pots and pans, playing a loud radio at any sort of time, preaching from the Bible, you can do that all day on the sidewalk, as long as the noise isn't crossing property boundaries. So would you consider this housekeeping of sorts, in the sense that this was a loophole that?
I'm sorry.
Continue.
It is, I don't know if it's a loophole, but it's a recognition of a type of action that, it was not covered under our code. Essentially, from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., there was a provision that essentially said that no noise disturbance, if it was involved with parades and whatnot, between those hours could form a violation of this. So that was the loophole, and this exempts noise disturbances that are directed and intended to focus in upon residents in the peace of their own home. That's what this is intended to do.
All right,
It could
I'm
be
sorry,
your house,
Councilman,
It could be anyone's house.
Yeah,
So
I'm sorry.
it could be
Sir.
anyone.
I say, Councilman White.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for clarification, what's the definition of a residence?
Of
What's
what?
the definition of a residence?
Councilman White.
I'm
please.
sorry.
Thank
It's a
you.
place where people sleep at night.
So in this case, this bill's targeting a specific residence.
No, it targets if any residence is targeted. Oh, yes, so if the conduct is designed, if the noise disturbance is designed to focus in on a particular residence, then that would.
The definition, you said residence or residences?
Residence.
So if this noise was targeted to a multifamily housing, would this ordinance cover it?
I think so,
How?
because there would be a residence. There would be a
So is
resident
it
there.
targeted to?
If you were going
So
to.
you're saying, just for clarification,
Yeah,
it's targeted to residences?
correct.
Okay, so there's just a little inaccuracies. Now, it mentions here a noise disturbance that does not include noise levels established by 11-65. You're the solicitor. What's 11-65?
That's the one that measures decibels. And that's enforced by the Department of License and Inspection.
So this proposed legislation would not come under, this would not come under section 11-65.
Correct.
So, are there any other noise ordinances on the books that specifically mentioned political conduct? Is there not an exception right now for the city of Wilmington on the books that would allow this under political speech?
There's, well, there's section 1161(7),
Right.
which talks about exemptions based upon non-commercial events such as parades, public speaking, or public assembly activities, including political rallies and promotions. And that can,
And
that was,
currently, may I just say, concurrently, this noise abatement legislation is exempt under that legislation, right?
this essentially removes a targeted noise disturbance from that exemption.
So, then, just clarification, so you're of the opinion that residence means residences. So if someone was held up in a multifamily housing unit, 40 units or more, and this conduct is going on, that would be prohibited?
If this, I think that it would be a particular resident that you'd have to target it at.
Again, Counselor,
Yes.
I'm-
Sorry,
I'm
I'm sorry, Councilman White.
I'm sorry.
Would you like to follow? I'm like, because you're going on and on question after question. I just wanted to make certain that
I'm
everyone
sorry,
got a chance
Madam
to
Chair.
speak.
Yeah, I
and-
want to give everybody a chance to speak. I just-
Okay, all right. President Congo.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. You know, for what it's worth, whether you love it or hate it, like this country was built on protests, and for us to consider legislation that would prohibit or possibly even have people arrested for protesting is so hypocritical. And I have a couple questions. How would the sound be measured?
Well, this is based upon, it's like, it's based upon whether it harms you, it offends a person of reasonable sensibilities. It would be measured and based upon whether a judge believed that this sound constituted such a disturbance of a person's peace in their own home. So it's not measured by decibels. It's measured by the conduct. It's not measured by decibels, which is frankly the way that most conduct in terms of crimes is defined. Like, for example, offensive touching is a crime. It's when you touch someone in a way that a reasonable person would find offensive or alarming to them. So this is narrowly, you wouldn't want it to be based upon decibels because then you wouldn't have an actual harm occurring in the house. This is designed to prevent an actual harm that's occurring to the folks that are in their homes and really can't escape. They're captive to this, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm about to say, please, if you could keep it, if you can keep it quiet in the
I
audience, thank
really
you.
don't understand, I don't really understand how, anyway, go ahead.
So just a follow-up, Madam Chair.
Oh, yes, you may follow.
Thank you. So this would be solely based on somebody's opinion or word? So officers would be called to the residents and the people with the protesters would be immediately arrested and then have to go before a judge so the judge can make that?
No, that's actually
decision?
not the way it works.
How would it
The
work?
way it usually works and the way it has worked in the past is that folks that are making a noise are warned about the noise and they're asked to stop making that noise. And then if they continue to do it, that's when they would receive a citation or arrest. That's the way that would happen. The way in which it's measured or documented, as you know, the City of Wilmington Police Department have body-worn cameras on all of them. This would constitute a police action. Therefore, they record what's occurring at the household, the noise that's being made, their interaction with any individuals who are making that noise, the fact that they're going to warn the individuals, and then when they come back And if the folks are still doing the same thing, they would record what was happening at that point in time. Those recordings would be available for a judge to consider if a citation was issued, and the judge would then determine whether or not that constituted a targeted noise disturbance, much the way any proceeding occurs.
So just one more follow-up, Madam Chair,
All right,
if I
you
may.
may follow.
Thank you. So I lost my train of thought. So we are considering giving citations to peaceful protesters. This would give the city, the police department, the ability.
Well, it depends on what you mean by peaceful. If you're talking
Peaceful as in-
about, if you're
peaceful
talking
as in
about,
not-
if you're
Yeah,
talking
peaceful
about,
Audience, you will have a chance to speak.
if you are talking, this,
Peaceful as in nonviolent.
right,
All right.
right, nonviolent. Okay, so your
Right.
definition of nonviolent. But to the folks that are in their houses and have hour after hour of people beating the drums and yelling through loudspeakers and having recordings of bombs exploding, to those people there, it isn't very peaceful. Those people are not able to just go away. This is where they sleep, this is where they eat, this is where their children sleep, their grandchildren are, this is where they take care of ill parents. And those people's rights matter too. So.
I understand that. Yeah, I understand.
Well, I'm just want you to
Oh,
be
yeah.
aware of the rights that we're interested in. We're not trying to prevent people
When you
from
say
getting
we,
a message.
when you say we, what do you mean?
What do you mean by we?
You said that we're
I-
interested in.
I think this is a good piece of
Okay.
legislation. So I think that it's a good idea.
Okay.
It takes care of a loophole. It deals with people that are being victimized, essentially, in their homes. And the folks that are doing it, they have many other avenues to express themselves. They can protest anywhere, anytime. They're just, at this point in time, the conduct is designed to harass. That's what it's designed to do. And right now, I guess what the attempt is to create some sort of belief that they're being harmed by not being able to harass other people. So,
Okay. All right.
right.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councilwoman
right,
LaToya,
I will-
Marcel, can I just say, please? You have been joined
But-
online by Councilwoman Bracy,
All right.
Councilwoman Fields, and Councilwoman Oliver.
Okay, I would like to acknowledge all three. Thank you. All right, Councilwoman Darby had, she wishes to speak.
Yeah, I just wanted to reference that when I first read this legislation, I didn't think of protesters like that. I didn't even think about that when I read this legislation until Councilmember Field called me this morning, and he said this was and referred to the protesters. He made the reference. So when he earlier said Councilmember Darby is referencing this, I want you to know he referenced that to me on the phone, that this was about the protesters. He said that. I didn't say that. He said that on the phone to me this morning, and I questioned him about his logic. So I want to make that clear. I also want to, I'm glad that Councilmember White mentioned that there's already regulation that monitors, that actually talks about regulation for protest and noise, noise level ordinances. So it is Article 3, Section 1165. It talks about the allowable noise levels and prohibited measures noise disturbance. There's already something on the books that already talks about noise control, right? They are following it. They sent me this document, the protesters that you talked about and mentioned this morning to me. I didn't mention them. You did. I didn't even think about it. And when you told me, you gave me the fire. I want you to know that. So in this, there's a noise level ordinances that already exist. So now this piece of legislation, the intent behind it, they can talk about all the other things they want to talk about, but his intent and this legislation was towards the protesters. He told me this morning, and I want to make that very clear. I also want to talk about how when another constituent who actually lives in the 8th district, she has been talking against Gibraltar. She's been talking about against Gibraltar.
But just one moment, just one moment.
I'm talking,
Mr.
and that's
Goff.
really rude to do.
Mr. Goff, as a, the reason, no. Point of order. Point of order, thank you guys. right. I said no. I said, please, could y'all let Ms. Councilwoman Darby have the floor? Continue.
Yeah, one last thing. So I got a message from one of the constituents that I speak to over in the 8th District. So there was a time that Keandra McDowell, if you don't know her, Wilmington Police Department killed her brother, right? And she's here. So she goes to people's house and she protests. So when she protests, neighbors actually came out and supported her and gave her food and told her to keep doing it because she was out there fighting for the right things, right? So when that neighbor emailed me, texted me today, she told me this. She said Mayor Mike Przicki came outside and apologized to all his neighbors and said that he is going to work on solving the problem with legislation. This is the message I received from a 8th District person who experienced someone protesting outside their house. They heard the bullhorn. So they're not looking to stop. I'm not looking to stop the message. I don't think they're trying to stop the message, but they're trying to stop the way you do it and say that you got to, next time, whisper, okay? Y'all too loud. Whisper.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. So I didn't know. I do see that Councilwoman Oliver actually has her hand up. You may speak.
McCoy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
I can't hardly hear nothing. Let me wait till I get my thing turned up. I can't hear nothing, but I'm on the line. I
Okay.
can't hear you.
Okay. All right. So actually, one of the things that I wanted to make certain that I did get a chance to read this, and one of the things that I wanted to make certain that I talked about was the fact that it seems to be that this is content neutral, and that was not based on what actually was being stated. And then also one of the things that Councilman Darby talked about was noise control, and we definitely do have a noise control ordinance. But noise control versus freedom of speech. Police officers do not want to get involved, and that's the reason why some things continue going on, whether or not it's above the decibels that are that we're stating that it should be below or not. No one wants to impede on anyone's rights. So in order to make certain that this is something, I guess, that they can keep the noise down, I believe this is the reason why the ordinance was put into place. But
That's not what he told me. He called me. I didn't make it.
all right, Councilwoman Darby, I'm just like I said, just reading what this is. That's what it came to me. Now, I will open it up for public comment. All right. So I didn't get a sheet or anything. I didn't know who I should be calling.
He called me. He called me.
Okay. All right. So, thank you. All right, and so we already have some people are online as well. Thank you. Okay. All right.
I should have let them.
So, Ms. Mercedes Migliore. Migliore. Okay. Would you please come to the mic? Just state your name.
Hi, my name is Mercedes Migliore. I live in the 8th District. I believe in the First Amendment right of protesting. However, because I live 2 blocks from Senator Coons, I feel like I'm being protested and against, and I feel like my neighbors feel like they're also being protested against. Because of the megaphone and the drum, we can hear everything clear as day. And my neighbors and I, we have different views on this topic, but we all feel like we are being protested against. The language is not peaceful. Things like your father is a murderer, your father is a war criminal, your husband is a war criminal, that Senator Coons murders children, those are not I don't think that being yelled over a megaphone is peaceful. There are children in my neighborhood who live 2 blocks from Senator Coons the other way.
I need for the audience to respect her.
Thank you. and they had to leave their house because the kids were trying to go to bed, and they started crying, thinking that somebody was going to come and get them in the middle of the night. My other concern is that when does this become harassing and heckling and not protesting? So for instance, if there are a group of people that disagree with a I stand for the Ukraine sign, or we stand with Israel sign, or they have a pro-Biden sign or a pro-Trump sign outside their house, and a group just wants to come out and start protesting against them, I mean, when do we draw the line here about how often can we protest, what can we protest, and how can we protest it in people's homes and residences? My other issue is, when does it stop? Because there are groups that might disagree with a pro-Palestinian stance, and they could come out and hold a counter-protest. And so at what point do we draw the line of having a circus, like a cacophony circus going on with many different groups outside protesting outside of Senator Coons's house? On top of it, Senator Coons is not even home half the time this goes on, so I'm not sure how useful the protests are. And furthermore, I'm sorry, I'm distracted for a minute.
Take your time. I'm like, I
Thank
would like
you.
for it to be quiet in the audience.
Thank
Give her
you.
time. Yeah, you do have 20 seconds.
Okay, but that is my concern, that this is ultimately going to lead to civil unrest, and that the protesting is just going to be more fighting and less messages being heard.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, I have a Robert Vanilla.
You should stay, yeah, thank you. You should stay, listen to all of this.
I would like for you to listen to her then next time.
I will.
Okay, thank you. I'm like, I just want to make sure that everyone get a chance to have their voices heard.
Okay, I'm talking
Okay.
this way.
Okay.
Hi,
You want me to listen when you're talking this way?
you-
Okay, thank you. All right.
I'm
Mr.
yielding back my
Vanilla.
time.
Mr. Vanilla. I do apologize.
I'm just,
Please.
I'm just
Please, I said-
trying to lighten it up a little bit. I'm Rob Vanilla. I also live there. I live actually 3 blocks, so not quite as far. But let's be absolutely clear. This is particularly directed at the new protests that have been happening on a regular basis at Senator Carper's house and Senator Coons's house. There's already been a dubious arrest at Senator Carper's house. We're dealing with that through the criminal justice system. But let's be very clear. These 2 individuals are 2 of the most powerful men in the country. Not only do they approve the arms sales and the money that goes to the IDF and the Zionists in Israel, they also have, obviously, President Joe Biden's ear. So the idea that somehow we should take it easy on them is just absurd. This is directed at a particular group saying particular things, and I live in the neighborhood too, and I'm very sorry, but it's too bad. It's just too bad. This is political speech. We have ordinances for noise. This is political speech. The most powerful people, like Mike Przicki, and the rich, affluent people who live in the Highlands, I know them, they're my neighbors. They want this to stop because it's uncomfortable for them. I understand that. It's extremely uncomfortable. I go protest with these people, and I'm uncomfortable doing it. I don't want to have to go. But that's just too bad. Thank you. And I agree, this is a ridiculous ordinance, and I hope it dies here.
Thank you, Mr. Vanilla. All right, Suzanne Morris. Is she here? Okay. Yeah.
I've never done this before, so do I just start?
Yeah, just say your name and just speak into the mic.
My name is Susan Morris. I also live in the 8th District. I support the protests and any protests that happen in Wilmington. It's for the good of the community. I will say, however, like the more ordinances we put out there, like this is now stating residences, and it could snowball and become something else. And I guess my main thing that I'm hearing is, when does this stop? Well, it hasn't bothered anyone when Planned Parenthood, every day when I worked there, that I went to work and I had people yelling, cussing at me, and they're protesting a sign and what they decide it means. I mean, is it going to, like, when the Catholic Church across the street from me, do I get to complain because they're, noise coming through my window and it's harmful to me because I'm an atheist? Like, I don't think this can be opinion-based. And we need to respect the people that are protesting. We may not agree with everything they say, but we need to respect and listen to their message because they might have a good message if you listen.
Thank you, Ms. Morris. Yes, Marshall? I don't hear. Okay. I'm going to continue forward.
Chairwoman, I apologize.
Yes.
I did hear you. I didn't realize that I was on mute. Just when you go back to councilpersons, I just wanted to let you know, I did put a couple of questions in the chat that Councilman White had. He had to leave out, so I just wanted to make sure that you was aware of that because I know you're on the public comment.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Lavola Callahan? I'm sorry. I'm trying to read this. The name Lavo. That's right. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Then Ryan Briscoe. Oh, okay. Sierra Hipkins. Okay. And Nichelle Brown. Nicole Brown. I'm sorry. Nicole Brown. Okay. All right. I did see some other names. Let me see. Daisy Rivers.
Hi, yes, I also live in the 8th District. I am about a street up from Senator Coon's house. I stand with the protesters as I have protested there myself. We are standing for humanity, and like other people have stated, they want to know when it will stop. The genocide must stop. That is what we are here for. These people that we are protesting for have not listened to us. They have not met with us. They have acted very cowardice and hidden from us and from the message. And we are here because upwards of 40,000 people have died at the hands of these wealthy politicians who are ignoring the cries of their people in their own city, who are houseless, who cannot feed themselves, who cannot feed their children, who do not have access to water, who do not have access to proper heating and cooling. And we are here because that money that should have our right to send where our community needs it is being sent to kill humans, families, children, to destroy mosques, to destroy schools. And this is what we are standing against. And again, it is too bad that these people who are rich, who have all of the privileges to send their kids to schools, to lay them to rest safely at night and know that they will wake up in the morning, they do not get to have that reality that these people are so willingly ignoring their people in this country and sending continuous aid and weapons to. We are here because humans deserve to have rights. We are standing with our rights, and legislation like this will inhibit future protests. You could label that and put that onto apartment buildings when you're walking through the streets of cities. This can go into dangerous levels where humans who have every right to talk about the issues that our country is producing will be inhibited and, like we said, have already been arrested for peacefully protesting. This is our right, and we deserve to be here, and we will continue to speak out exactly how we are, and we are not scared by legislation like this.
Zumana Noor.
Hi everyone, I'm Zumana, like you stated. I'm here to speak against this ordinance. I strongly oppose it Firstly, it will infringe on our First Amendment rights to protest, and this will limit the whole city from protesting for any matter, for any cause, on public areas, which is unconstitutional. Our senators have not been listening to our demands and our pleas. Over 240 days of active genocide, over 40,000 people have been murdered by our tax dollars. Our senators continue to support our tax dollars being sent to the terrorist state of Israel to fund this genocide and to kill innocent people when there are people in Wilmington who are starving, who are homeless, who have no access to education, have to work multiple jobs just to make ends meet. And we are here being disrupted by protesters who are calling on our senators to call for a ceasefire, which is the bare minimum. And these protests have been taking on public land. We are on sidewalks. We do not infringe traffic. We do not block the flow of traffic. We do not block pedestrians from crossing the streets. We listen to the laws, and we are protesting within noise ordinance. So yes, we are using amplified noise, but it is within noise ordinance. And lastly, I would like to remind everyone that the city of Wilmington passed a ceasefire resolution back in November, one of the first cities in all of America to do it. And now, yes, and it makes no sense for you to turn around now and prohibit protesters to demand that their senators listen to the rest of the city and call for a ceasefire, which again is the bare minimum. And for everyone wondering when this will end, this genocide has not ended yet. Our senators continue to support genocide, continue to support money being sent over to support this genocide, and we will stop when the genocide ends. Please protect and support our right to protest. Free Palestine.
Madam Chair.
Rhapsody Johnson?
Madam Chair, it's Marshall. I
Yes.
just want to just remind you too that there are people on Zoom. So just let you know there are 51 attendees on Zoom.
Yeah, well, did they, or was there, I'm sorry, no. I'm not doing 51 attendees on Zoom. Was there a sign-up sheet? No, there should be a sign-up sheet. All right, so, I'm sorry, yes, I'm sorry, just one moment, so, just one moment, let me, listen, WITA. Okay, all right, so there are 12. There are that many people on Zoom, but there are only 12 people that want public comment. Thank you for clarifying. All right, so I do still have Rhapsody Johnson. Were you here to speak? Yeah, I'm here. Okay, and how about Lori Citron? Okay.
Hi. I'm Lori Citro, a lifelong Delaware resident, Delaware Division of Arts Fellow for Performing, former Delaware Junior Miss, daughter of a Norwegian immigrant who lived with Nazi occupation from the age of 5 to 10 Nazis in her house. First, I'd like to say thank you very much for issuing a statement in November for a ceasefire in Palestine. I appreciate your humanity. Secondly, I'd like to say as a resident and a homeowner, I do empathize with private residents who would like to not be involved with protesters in their residence and maintain a peaceful environment, getting your kids to sleep and things like that. I work at night as a musician, and I often have to listen to lawnmowers and people in their pool and all those kind of things, but there are already ordinances for noise level, and just try and get along with our neighbors and coexist. However, unfortunately, if you have a high-profile resident like the president or Senator Coons, you're gonna be subject to people exercising their freedom of speech. It is within reason to expect, even with people like Taylor Swift or Madonna, that there will be newscasters, photographers, fans, and protesters in their residential areas. As long as they follow noise ordinances and stay on sidewalks, public streets, and parks, then this ordinance is enough, the one that we already have. We don't need to do ones that are just for protesters. This ordinance that is for protesters has ramifications of like parades and political canvassing and rallies and parties in neighborhoods. If you can just target people, unless it is only targeting protesters, and in that case, it's only targeting our First Amendment speech First Amendment freedom of speech rights. And in that case, this is just a scam. I want to just briefly say, if you don't know, Amendment 1, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or the press or the right of people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. And it doesn't say anything about where that is. It's in public places. We have sidewalks, we have streets, and these are the places that residents are. We are allowed to protest peaceably. And I see more and more of our rights being taken away. And I really urge you not to take any of our rights away to speak against this awful genocide. Free Palestine.
Now, I have to pause for just a moment. Kendra, I have no way of seeing who is on this line. They'll introduce? Okay. WITN, I need your help.
Do you have me on there for in-person?
You did not, I don't have you signed up for anything. Yep, I got your papers already. I said Ryan Briscoe. Huh.
Councilman McCoy,
Yes.
could you ask Wendell if he can, I don't know, the volume is low or something, or if he can
I mean,
see
well,
what's going on with my phone?
I hear you.
I can barely hear you, I'm sorry.
I can hear you very well. I'm not certain why.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot. Okay.
Okay. All right, so. I'm sorry? Say that again. Repeat yourself. Can you hear me? Yes. Oh, it's just the initial M? Okay. It's all right. We can, if you can just go ahead and unmute them so that they can speak. Please, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, we had a few names on that other sheet you had.
I've actually called every name that was on this sheet and then on a blank sheet as well.
We got.
There's another sheet. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Yes, M, would you unmute yourself?
Yes.
You have 3 minutes. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm M. I'm a newish resident of Wilmington. You'll have to forgive me. I'm going to be a bit fragmented. I only found out about this a couple hours ago, but I made sure I could get here because this is absurd legislation. Let me just say, because I want to get this right out of the way, we know whose interests they have, the people who created this legislation. They said it, I forget the gentleman's name, the legislator. He said specifically that they have somebody's interest in mind, and those are very clearly the rich, the powerful, the white. It is the senators, Senator Coons. This is a piece of legislation specifically to protect Coons, who is already one of the most protected people in the country, as another person pointed out. And to the white person who spoke first, again, it's too bad. It really is too bad. It is hard for me to sit here and take seriously that you are a victim because your kids are having a hard time sleeping. Like, there is such a thing as noise machines and you telling them that they're gonna be fine. Like, your kids don't need to be scared if you just tell them they're people down the road who are exercising their First Amendment right. And how lucky are we that we get to do that, and that if we felt strongly enough about something, I don't know what it is that you feel strongly enough about if it is not the genocide of an entire population of people, but I guess there's something. And wouldn't it be lucky for you to be able to go out and protest when you want to? Again, it's just so ambiguous what the noise is, who the victim is. How are we defining the victim here? Like, are these people going to go through a doctor's evaluation? Are they going to get their ears tested? Was the noise too loud? Are they going to get mental health evaluations to see if they were traumatized by the sound of bombs while being so lucky not to have bombs actually dropping on their heads every day like the Palestinians? The conduct here is not designed to harass anybody. It is designed to stop the genocide in Gaza. I don't know how much more clear people can get about that. Free Palestine.
Thank you. WITN, you have the next person. Could you please? Okay. Thank you. Sarah, could you please unmute yourself?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm here because I live in the city. I have zero ability to influence foreign policy. I live in my home with my husband and children. For the past few months, the peace and tranquility and privacy of my home has been disrupted by the passionate protests of individuals who come to my neighborhood and bring drums, cowbells, bullhorns, and their very loud voices to protest for a change on United States foreign policy. Why are these individuals screaming at my home? Because I unfortunately have proximity to an elected official. I am living in a residential community, but what has also been happening for the past several months, I have been caring for a dying parent. I have been caring for a dying parent in my home, and 7 a.m. in the morning, I can hear these individuals loudly with doors shut and windows shut. And guess what? The ordinance that everyone has said works is not being enforced because the ordinance runs 9 to 9. And when you bring a bullhorn and a cowbell, that is disruptive. It is painful. On Mother's Day, after coming home from Jefferson Hospital, where my mother had been in ICU, I went home in my bed at 6 p.m. and all I wanted to do was to cry myself to sleep over the situation in my life and the problem with my mother's health. And I was awoken to bullhorns and cowbells and screams. And the other thing, I know there's many of these protesters here, and they are telling you that they are being peaceful. Well, they have screamed at my children when they've walked by with our dog. Bombs are dropping while you're walking, and they have screamed with their bullhorns at the neighbors as we walk by. This is harassment. The United States Supreme Court has, for over a century, made clear that the rights are balanced, and we have a right to privacy in our home. I have been a First Amendment purist my entire life, but this is crossing a line. Their voices are blocking my tranquility and my peacefulness in our family. And maybe if I wasn't caring for a dying parent, maybe I'd feel a little bit less sad and tolerant. But this is in my house with my door shut and music on. We can't leave the house. We can't go outside and enjoy it because they come and they harass. And they are not just screaming at the senator, they are screaming at the neighbors. And it's not kind, it is not peaceful. And this city council, your job is not to influence foreign policy, it is to protect the residents. And the neighborhoods are the most important thing. This is where we live.
Yes, I'm sorry. You've actually, you've finished your time. Thank you so much for sharing. Yes. Okay. All right, Mr. Salam, Hanif, could you please unmute yourself? It is? Okay. All right, Hanif Salam, you have the mic. Okay. Well, can you mute him and go on to the next person until he gets back to his device? Okay. Mr. Carl Wagner, please unmute your mic.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, yeah, I've lived in the 8th District for 17 years. I am, able to hear inside my house, the protesters that, are targeting Senator Coons' house. Like, I just feel like I should be able to have peace and quiet inside my house. I don't have anything against the protesters, or I think it's totally fine for them to be there, and so long as I can't hear them inside my house, I'm okay with it. I just, to make this about a national issue when this is really like, you guys, the council, is supposed to protect the rights of of your constituents. Like, I don't understand why the sound ordinance isn't just followed. The police are always there. The police are, they're always there, and they don't enforce it. Typically the noise is first thing in the morning on the weekends. I know the 9 to 9 time was mentioned. It's always before 9, and then definitely always on the holidays. So we live in a city, and you should be able to protest, and you just shouldn't be able to infringe on the rights of others. I know everyone mentioned they're on the sidewalks, not blocking traffic. That's great, but I don't need to walk down that sidewalk. I need to just be able to be in my house peacefully. That's all I had.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wagner. Okay. All right. Jeannie, would you please unmute yourself?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi, thank you guys. Hello, my name is Jean Kambara. I'm a registered Delaware voter. I'm here today as a Japanese American. My grandmother saw the mushroom clouds at Nagasaki. And so I want to extend my gratitude to the members here today who have supported a ceasefire so that no more civilians ever have to experience the war crime of collective punishment and indiscriminate civilian bombing. And I greatly appreciate the passion of the council members who spoke today. And I am also sympathetic towards those who are disturbed by noise, and people here who have shared stories of their kids or, caring for a parent. I've buried both my parents, as many people in Gaza have. And I know it's hard, and I know this isn't ideal, but we would protest and shout for any of the neighbors who spoke today if they were in Gaza and if they were suffering like the people in Gaza are. And I will say that the noise of protesters is much, much quieter than that of bombs. And if the councilmen and, the others who spoke here today want to stop these noise disturbances, I advise them to take swift and aggressive measures towards justice for the people of Gaza who are experiencing noise disturbance day after day after day. And come voting day, we will remember and we will appreciate those who have done so. Thank you.
Thank you. Emma, would you please unmute your mic?
Hello, my name is Emma, and I am co-chair of YDSA and president of Sunrise Newark. two student organizations at the University of Delaware that frequently participate in and organize demonstrations to put pressure upon our elected officials. I am speaking today on behalf of our members from across the state to oppose the proposed ordinance and discussion today. In November last year, a Huffington Post article reported that congressional staffers were being told to let constituent phone calls go to voicemail rather than speak with constituents about concerns. This is why many of us have chosen to occupy physical space and refuse to be ignored about the issues we see and the policies of those who represent us. When our elected officials will not pick up their phones, will not respond to our emails, and will not be receptive to widely held public opinion about an ongoing genocide, then we will go to them. I would like to point out that prior to any such events, my organizations host trainings to ensure our members are in full compliance with existing laws that have been mentioned previously tonight, and using best practices for safety protocols. I would like to reiterate my opposition to the proposed ordinance and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Aisha, could you please unmute your mic?
Yes, hi, my name is Aisha, and I'm a mother of children. And I'm going to be very respectful of the noise complaint that the constituents have. And I'm going to say that I oppose the genocide, and I'm gonna see if anybody can hear me.
We hear you.
Did anybody hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Did anybody hear my protest against genocide when I was being respectful that nobody gets harassed by the content of my message or by the sound of my message? I am going to repeat the two sentences again. Did anybody hear? No. So how can I make sure that I'm standing outside the public elected official's house and I'm whispering and not using any loudspeaker? How can I make sure that the voice reaches our elected official? I wouldn't go in front of any private person's house that has nothing to do with representing public and shout out those words to those people. It's unfortunate that they're in the vicinity and they can hear the loud noises. But it's just like telling us to walk on the road, but make sure you're 2 inches above the road. If it's just like that, taking away our sound so nobody can hear us. Even though they're public officials, it's their job to hear us. So please don't take away that right. What is next? Like, you can't walk on the road, you're gonna have to walk 2 inch or 6 inch above it because it can make somebody uncomfortable. And also I would ask Mr. Goff to define, like, what is the difference between disruption and harassment? He used the word harassment and being safe. I think we are not, like, protesters are not harassing anybody other than or disrupting anybody other than the elected official, who they are trying to make sure that he listens, he or she listen. So please don't take this personally, all the residents who are over there. It's a good opportunity to show your families that everybody has a right in this country, that in many countries they don't have that right. And I apologize for disrupting their routines, but I think there is technology, there is noise machines that can make sure you have even less noise than you can hear right now, or even like totally cancel that noise, and nobody's stopping anybody from using those machines. It is our right to use protest, and we don't want our right to be taken away, because our rights are already being taken away by many other ordinances, like anti-Semitism, like bills like anti-Semitism awareness and other bills. Please protect our right to free speech. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, Christina, please unmute your mic.
Thank you. My name's Christina Kelly. I am, I'm going to start this by saying how blessed are we to live in a country where our biggest concern can be that somebody is yelling outside of my house and making me uncomfortable. And not that it's, you know, I've got to worry about bombs being dropped on my home at 1, 2, 3 in the morning, overnight, when I'm sleeping, at my kid's school, et cetera, et cetera. Man, how blessed are we? But most importantly, I would just like to remind everybody, this has already been covered by the Court of Chancery in the state of Delaware as of September 24th, 2021, when myself and my best friend were sued by the Attorney General for protesting. This exact scenario is what is covered in this suit that the Attorney General lost. Why? Because we have First Amendment protected rights to do this exact activity. So I would highly suggest that the city of Wilmington not try setting precedents that are unconstitutional, you know, because again, this has already been heard in the state of Delaware. It's already been found to be an unconstitutional move. And the fact that this is even being presented to committee after I'm assuming it would have to have been looked at by city council's lawyers is highly concerning for the ethics and the morality of the lawyers that are being employed. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Hanif said that he has a written statement since I didn't hear him. I don't know how that works.
No, well, Hanif, we actually already had asked for him to unmute himself, and he didn't say anything, but we can go back to Mr. Salam.
He said he was mute, but he couldn't hear.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, but you had the statement or whatever that you wanted to read out?
If
or-
I could put it on record for him, I don't know. Or if you could try to unmute him.
Well, then you can say that for last. I still have.
Oh, okay.
Hello?
Is that Hanif? Hello? Yeah. Okay, Wendell, who's next? Yeah, is that Hanif? All right, Hanif, if you are muted, you can speak. All right. Okay, thank you. Sarah, please unmute yourself. Sarah, can I hear you?
Hello?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Hi, as a Delawarean, I also strongly oppose this ordinance. Councilmember Nathan Fields says it's not about our right to protest and it's only about noise. However, these little restrictions prohibit us from reaching our senators who do not listen to us. You keep saying that we can protest in other ways, but how can you guarantee that that also won't be restricted as you are trying to do right now? You do not care about protecting about people. If you cared about protecting about people, you wouldn't limit our protesting and how we choose to protest for a permanent ceasefire and end funding to enable genocide. If you cared the protection about the citizens, we should be focusing on using our tax money on our communities here who are barely able to afford food, secure housing, proper education, and healthcare. We shouldn't be sending any money to fund a genocide if we care for the protection of people. This is an infringement of our First Amendment right to protest because you're giving restrictions on how we protest. We have the right as American citizens to protest, and we have exhausted every single method to reach our senators by calling them and emailing them, and it has not worked. We restrict that as well. Our representatives are not listening to us, and that's what's pushed us to protest in this way. It's been more than 8 months into this genocide, and we still see people massacred on our social media screens. We don't have time for these petty restrictions, and we need actual action to end this genocide now. Please protect and support our right to protest. Free Palestine. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, all right, so actually, I'm looking at my phone so I can see exactly who's next as I don't have a laptop in front of me. Donya, could you please unmute yourself?
Yes, thank you, council member. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I would just like to take the time to say that I am deeply, deeply perplexed, concerned, as the U.S. Congress people love to use that term, about the presentation of this ordinance. A protest is not supposed to let anyone have quote unquote peace. It's supposed to cause a disturbance to your everyday routine. I am appalled that you think that, once again, all of these protests, which I know, have been targeting Senator Coons because he is an elected official who is being bought out by AIPAC over hundreds of thousands of dollars. You know, AIPAC is buying him out, right? Every day, instead of him listening to us, the constituents, correct? And so he's using our tax dollars to, he's sending our tax dollars to a foreign entity to commit crimes against humanity. Okay? Those are the tax dollars. Once again, these are our tax dollars. I work every single day, and I am not responded to at all through any of the appropriate bureaucratic channels. So where on earth am I supposed to protest? Because I can't go to his office, he's never there. And to the woman who said that he's not at home, that's incorrect. We caught him 2 to 3 times at his home. He was there and he ran away. You know, if he doesn't want to get annoyed, you know, and he keeps running away from his constituents, this is going to continue to occur, you know? I am really just beyond any words to be hearing a lot of soulless statements about how your peace, you know, as long as you stay away and are quiet, you know, and don't disturb our peace in the neighborhood. Like, I like my quiet time. I'm not at peace. I get up and I go protest, not because I want to. I would rather spend my time with my family. But your neighbor, instead of you joining us and teaching your kids anything, you decide to complain and complain. Go buy some noise canceling headphones. I would gladly fund them for you. I'll go create a fundraiser for you. But you know what? All the tax refunds that you get, I want them for my family friends in Gaza, because you're contributing to their murder. And I would like this to be on record. Senator Coons deserves to be protested at his residence, considering he doesn't respond to his constituents. And protesters have been utilizing their voices as well when they were told by law enforcement, put your bullhorns down, okay? And one of our own protesters was arrested in front of Senator Carper's home for doing nothing. She wasn't even using a darn bullhorn. So this is an infringement of our First Amendment rights. And I'm angry because it just continues to get worse in this state, in this country. You can't protest anywhere.
Ma'am?
You just want us to be quiet.
All
It's
right.
just absolutely insane.
Ma'am.
Insane.
Thank you for your comment.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, wait a minute. You know what? I have 3 people that were actually inside. Let me go ahead and go through them first. All right, thanks. All right, Keandra.
Hello, my name is Keandra McDowell. I started a lot of
I need you to get at the microphone, please. Yes.
I want to talk to them. Okay. Hello, my name is Keandra McDowell. I'm here to demand, I'm not asking, for Fields to drop this bogus piece of ordinance because it doesn't make any sense at all. We all know the real reason why you presented this ordinance the way that you did. This has nothing to do with no noise. This has everything to do with you guys been trying to limit the way that we protest since the beginning. I've been doing this for almost 9 years. And enough is enough. Just like Christina Kelly said, your attorney general and deputy attorney general tried this in 2021. And the top person in the chancery court told them that this cannot happen. It's violating people's rights. I believe what you should do after this meeting is to go contact your lawyers and tell them that they need to be fired, because you're just cooking up a whole bunch of lawsuits that's going to happen. That's it. And I would like to say that I don't think that you guys are loud enough. And after today, I will be joining the protest, because enough is enough. I can't believe that we're wasting our time here tonight with you doing a very sneaky move by releasing this ordinance. And I'm here to say that whoever allows us to leave the floor, that we're going to be protesting at your house next. Thank you.
Michelena de Jesus.
Before anything, just because the truth is harsh and uncomfortable, it doesn't make it violent. So I'll just start with that. So I'm a lifetime resident of Wilmington. I'm here because of Fields. Just found this out a couple hours ago. And he says that residents have expressed some concerns regarding disturbances. Those disturbances are from anti-genocide protesters in front of Senator Coons and Carper's homes. There have been 7 protests in the last 8 months of this ongoing genocide, all of which were on public property within reasonable distance from the residents, also nonviolent, within allowed time according to the city code, no traffic obstructions, no sidewalks were blocked, and usually there have been no more than 10 people there each time. And usually the police will take immediately the bullhorns and the drums, and their voice carries so loud you would think it's on a megaphone, but it's not. So, you know, because a few people in privileged neighborhoods don't like it, you want to restrict where they can speak. That is an overstep to violating our First Amendment right to protest, our free speech, and our freedom of press and assembly. All protests, they have a target. That's the way that protests work. When ignored emails, endless calls, like 8 months of endless calls, empty promises, or politicians proudly supporting genocide naturally will mobilize the people. So you want us to go to buildings that they're never at? More importantly, who gives you the right to dictate our freedom? You have, like everyone said, you have a whole noise disturbance subsection for this. So this one is specifically political, specifically to silence the people, specifically for us. But listen to what it doesn't apply to, like the lady said. It doesn't apply to events, parades, public speaking, public assembly, including political rallies, or anything else in compliance with provision of the city and the state codes between now 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. So if you guys allow, it's okay. But fortunately, there are dual businesses and residential areas. So truly, to enforce this citywide doesn't fit us in the box that you want to put us in. The problem is not when and where we are protesting. The problem is what we are protesting. AIPAC is the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, literally a foreign entity funding our politicians to support Israel, who is committing genocide with our U.S. tax dollars. Christopher Coons is one of them. This ordinance is the first step to take away our freedom of speech, and all who are in favor will be complicit. And as a result of this, I am announcing as of tonight, as of right now, McCoy, I'm running for 6th District City Council. I cannot be bought. The people will not be sold. And free Palestine.
Thank you. Ryan Dunlap.
Hi, my name is Ryan Dunlap. I'm a resident of northern Wilmington. One essential metric of a community's health, of a society's health, is the public's ability to speak out against the actions of their elected officials. In Delaware, many of our elected officials are breaking domestic and international law by voting to provide support through arms, personnel, and logistics in order to commit genocide against Palestinians by the forces that are illegally occupying their lands. Being a public servant, Nathan Field should understand that the majority of voters from all parties in the state oppose the president and Congress's unyielding support for Israel's genocide. He should understand that he has Palestinian and Arab constituents who have seen their loved ones senselessly slaughtered for the last 247 days. He should understand that the Delawareans who are exercising their First Amendment right to speak out against the actions of our elected officials are doing so from within groups comprising Muslims, Jews, Christians, Catholics, and other faiths. He should understand that the only criteria for being against an ethnic cleansing is empathy and even the slightest sense of our shared humanity. Being a history major, Nathan Field should know that the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians has been going on for over 100 years. He should know that the United Nations, by 2/3 majority, has for decades condemned these actions, that the UN has classified the occupied Palestinian lands as an apartheid regime, an illegal ethno-state, a violation of the Geneva Convention. He should know that the U.S.'s support is a violation of Article 7 of the International Arms Trade Treaty, a violation to the U.S.'s own Leahy Law. Being a history major, Nathan Fields should know that the protest by public and government officials was instrumental in forcing the U.S. to react to the ethnic cleansing of Jews in Western and Central Europe. He should know that public outcry was instrumental in stopping U.S. atrocities against the Vietnamese and the unnecessary loss of U.S. civilian life in the process. Being a history major, Nathan Fields should understand that the silencing of free speech by fascists often occurs through legal means. He should understand how feverishly free speech was attacked during the Reconstruction era and in opposition to the Civil Rights Movement. That is, if lawful assembly and speech are inconvenient to the atrocities being committed, you simply change the laws around them. Why are Nathan Fields and James Spadola changing the laws around peaceful assembly and free speech? Do they want history to remember them each as people who chose their own career, or people who chose human rights and democracy for all? It is obvious that this proposed motion only serves to shield our elected officials from the public's disagreement with their actions. I implore the council tonight to vote no on motion 439 to amend Chapter 11. You should both be ashamed of yourselves, seriously.
Thank you. James Rubin.
All right, cool. Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Jamie Rubin. I want to be quick and to the point because this is patently ridiculous. I'm not surprised at all by the ordinance or the lack of action. This is a legacy of genocide from our elected officials in the capitalist establishment. I'm a law student, a year away from my degree. I don't need to tell you this is against the First Amendment. This is patently against the First Amendment. This is ridiculous that I would have to tell you that because I know you're all not that ignorant. This is an undemocratic waste of time. It's not even an attack on the First Amendment. You're trying to throw a small wrench into the local activist movement here. That's all you're trying to do. I know that. You do this because they ask for radical action, like Senator Carper Coons, stop using our money to kill babies to please a fascist Nazi state. What's darkly humorous is I'm not sure you know you're consciously playing this role. This is a forgiving analysis. You're just inertia, cogs in the American misery machine. Your office and your system ignore immense poverty in our state and city for the vile joke. You ignore climate change, you ignore helping immigrants, you ignore everything. Regarding the neighbors of our right-wing senators, you financially cannot live near these people. Biden, Coons, Carper, they live in wealthy areas without economic security. I pragmatically urge you to move, or if you don't want to move, maybe it's a hassle, I don't know, consider canvassing our senators and ask them to stop their sociopathy. Ask them to stop bombing babies. But you might not want to do that. It might be easier to move because I've canvassed these people many times in the past and they don't care, they don't listen, they don't give a fuck. Thank you.
Wendell, that is all that we have inside the committee room. Who is next? And I please ask everyone to refrain from using profanity. Connor, please unmute your mic.
Hello to everyone on the dais today. I'm Connor Brophy, pronouns he, him, and I'm calling to the absolute disgust I have in learning that the council member Field is attempting to criminalize the most basic functions of free speech under the guise of noise control. Everything Field is cowering behind today is in pre-existing codes, and he is making more stipulations that can more easily punish protesters with economic and police violence. This is while we are equating hearing noises inside your house as being a threat to your security. And just for context, everyone here already knows that Nathan Field is only acting as a mouthpiece for the Senator Coons because he feels impotent when he can't wield the police at a moment's notice when anyone bothers the senator. Otherwise, the only constituents he is representing here are the same people who are yelling slurs and obscenities at his protesters. These wonderfully privileged constituents of his are on camera openly and happily celebrating the death of children around the world, while also crying over having to hear someone call them out on their giddiness for genocide. But I think that Nathan Field considers to be good and honest. This is all for a senator that has ignored hundreds of calls and emails every day, He turns away from the thousands of people marching the streets of DC and Delaware, and yes, is even hiding from the dozen protesters across the street from his own house. Protests do not have to address the senator's complicity in genocide, and they will not apologize because you were declaring a successful protest a nuisance. Ask yourselves what any successful protest has ever looked like in this country, so then you can turn around and acknowledge your own cowardice. The state and its people are speaking, Nathan Field. Tell us why you were threatening violence against us if we don't stay quiet. And just like every other person in this room, on this call, with an actual heart in their chest, I'm asking the rest of the council members to emphatically protect our rights to protest. Sergeant Palestine, thank you.
Okay, we have Sydney. Sydney, please unmute your mic.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Hello, my name is Sydney, and I was born and raised in the city of Wilmington. However, I have not had the comfort of living in the aristocratic neighborhoods where our representatives reside. These people seem to be so disturbed by their sleep and by their sleep and noise. But what about the kids and families living just 10 minutes down the road where they are subject to the noise of gunshots, ambulances, and police cars? Wilmington has a serious gun violence problem that has gone unchecked, and many of my loved ones have died because of it. Wilmington has a serious parents fear for their children's safety even when they play outside in their own neighborhoods. Where is the outcry for them? Where is the outcry for the terror faced by people of Gaza who are subjected to the relentless noise of sonic warfare, adding to their daily suffering and fear? I want to emphasize the shameful and unequivocal support our senators have shown for Israel in the horrific genocide in Gaza. Israel's deliberate decision to employ sonic warfare against innocent Gaza civilians is nothing short of barbaric. By endorsing these monstrous tactics, our senators are complicit in the suffering and devastation inflicted upon Gaza. They are merely passive observers, but active supporters of this brutality. Therefore, we must confront them with the very methods they endorse, exposing their hypocrisy and holding them accountable for their inhumane actions. If this noise bothers their neighbors so much, they should be protesting with us because the people in Gaza have not been able to have a moment of silence for 246 days. And to the neighbors that spoke today, boo-hoo.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, we've actually been doing public comment for about an hour. I think we had 12, but I think we've gotten through them and the ones that are in here. If there's anyone else who had some, any of my council members, because I wanted to go ahead and make a motion.
Yeah, I just have one thing about honey.
Okay, no, so actually, we're not, he's rather speak it for yourself rather than have it as a, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I guess just my closing comments is that, one, I'll be voting no to this. And I just want to make it clear again that when I first read this, I didn't even know, like, it was just like noise. I'm like, okay, noise. Like, I didn't even think about protesters until I received a call from Councilmember Nathan Field. And that's when my bells went off on what this really was about. And that's when I started contacting people and these so-called protesters that are calling an inconvenience in his neighborhood. I also wanted, in relation to, let me bring up some of the things Honey said. We already have city laws to maintain noise levels, and this is a violation. And we already seen it happen at the AG Chancery Court level that this was voted down. So then this will continue to be a legal issue. We already have laws. This is going to continue to be a legal issue if this passes out tonight. And we need to vote no to this tonight because this is not how we handle protesters. This is not how we handle people being able to exercise their right. And I also want to confirm for this ceasefire in this room, the only people that said yes to it was Council Member President Congo and myself were the only people who said yes to ceasefire. I just want to confirm that for everyone sitting in this room right now. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Council President?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just aside from this piece of legislation just being morally wrong, this is, I think it will set us up for legal battles, and for our own law team to co-sign it is very disturbing, knowing the history behind what happened with the Attorney General's office, and for them to be here saying that it's a good piece of legislation is disturbing. But I'm not going to support it. Hopefully other council members have been enlightened through the conversation this evening and they won't support it either. Thank you.
Okay. I do have, so I haven't gotten a chance to speak, and I do have a question for my my colleague. I would like to know whether or not Senator Coons, whether or not there was ever a call from Senator Coons, or did these calls come from your constituents?
I'm happy to answer that. I've had absolutely no communication whatsoever with Senator Coons or anybody from his family on this. The communication is entirely from residents of the neighborhood.
Is that some of the? So the reason. I'm sorry, I thought I heard something. All right. Yes.
I'm sorry, McCoy. I wasn't for sure if you were done with your questions from council members, because Councilman White had submitted some questions as well.
Okay. So where are those questions on the chat? Or would I get those from Kendra?
They are on the chat, but I can just briefly mention them. I'm not sure if the city solicitor is still there.
No, he is not. He is not here. He left out like half hour in.
Okay, but so some clarification he wanted to know is what are the
Madam Chair, point of order.
Okay.
Councilmember White isn't here. He can follow up on his own time.
Okay. All right. Ms. Basnight.
Okay.
So they would like to see whether or not Councilmember White can follow up on his own time, since he actually had to leave. So if you'd be able to give him that information. I was just kind of curious on what he actually asked, though.
It was in the chat. It's all in the chat.
I'm sorry?
Would you like me to list it for the record? But it is in the chat.
I'm sorry, say that again?
I said, would you like for me to list what he has, but it is listed in the chat?
Okay. No, it's not, wait.
Where's that in the book?
No, that's not there. So if it's just a question, we will have to come back and follow up later. Like I said, would you just wanna, you wanted to put the question on the floor? And so that we would get an answer for it later? Is that what you're trying to do?
Yes.
Because other than that, there's no one here to answer the question.
Yes, I'm aware, because you just mentioned that the city solicitor, left
Just
30
text
minutes.
them to me.
Text it to.
I'll ask the question.
Hey.
Nate Darby.
All right. Thank you, Councilwoman McCoy.
Oh, not a problem. So, all right. Was that everything? All right. So I just wanted to make certain that everyone got a chance to speak their mind. Were there any other questions or any other comments about what was happening? Besides asking that question of Councilman Fields, the thing that I do realize is that Councilman Fields is actually representing a district, and his district is complaining, and that's well, perhaps not all, not all. I'm sorry. Well, you had to sign up in order to speak. I'm like this meeting. I said this meeting. I've taken probably about 25 of the public comments. So I'm like, if you didn't sign in for the.
Well, point of order, I have a question about public comment. So when you follow the rules of order, Marshall told me that if you're on the Zoom, you raise your hand. There is not a sign up. That's what I was instructed from Marshall.
That is true, but as the committee chair, I can decide when I want to end public comment. It is my decision. It is my decision. It is my decision. It is my decision. I said because I still had something that I have to pick up my son. So it is my decision.
It's, yeah, her decision.
It is
not
my
a
decision.
rule.
I said, so I took the 12 calls that were online and the people that were in here, and that if they were getting on still after 6 p.m., then I was not taking those calls. Okay. Who were on at 5?
History is being made here. I mean, yeah, they were on.
Madam Chair, this is your meeting.
Oh yeah, oh, I'm aware.
cancel
And that's the
till
reason why I had I ended the calls, because I needed to move forward. Okay, so like I stated, I do feel like, you know, honestly, looking at this, there were some things that I had some questions for Councilman Fields. There's some things that I definitely wanted to see adjusted, but to just make certain that he has a place for his constituents to feel like that they are being protected by him. I said, okay. I said, well, let's look at this, and this, and then we can talk. So if he just wants to move it out, I will make a motion to move it to a full committee. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All right. So all those in favor?
Can we do a voice vote, please?
Okay.
Voice vote, please.
Okay. All right. So can I have a voice vote? Let me go back to the list.
So the room is going to get bigger next council meeting. I hope y'all know.
Okay, all right, Councilwoman Oliver. Okay, Councilwoman Darby,
No.
Councilman Johnson, Councilman Spadola,
Yes.
Councilman Mills.
Yes.
Okay, President Congo.
No.
Okay, and I had made the motion to move it out. So yes. So it was going to go to. Sorry.
If there's 7 of us.
I'm sorry, Councilwoman Darby.
Yes, I have a question about the vote. According to Robert's rule, is it based on who's present?
It's based on who's present.
So it's 5 of us present.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. That's what I was wanting to confirm.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. So I am here to. All right. So thank you all for coming for the that portion of things. The ordinance will come to the ordinance will come to full council.
June the 20th.
Kendra, are you able to tell me when? Are you able to tell me when this will come to a full council?
It'll be June the 20th, Madam Chair.
All right. So, ma'am.
You don't like it, move to a farm. Because as soon as you walk out of your house, it's public property.
Ma'am.
So you should be ashamed of yourself. It's not ma'am. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Ma'am.
Ugh.
Okay. Thank you.
We will be back. Shame. Shame
Thank
on all
you.
of
We know whose rights you guys are protecting. It's not the people's. It's the rich, white.
Bought and sold.
Shame.
Shame. Really,
Thank
from the
you.
bottom of
On
my
to the
heart.
next.
Shame on you.
That's why I asked Kendra. Huh?
It'll be June
Okay,
the
it's June
20th.
20th. Thank you. This will come to a full council floor on June 20th. All right. So, all right. On to the next thing. The presentation. Is Dr. Mason here?
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Genocide neighbors, you have blood on your hands. Shame on you! Shame on you!
Shame on you! Shame on you! That was great for recruiting them. Thanks a lot. We'll see you all very soon.
Thank you so much for your patience. Dr. Mason, I appreciate your patience. All right, and you have a presentation, an update on the Community Public Safety Initiative?
Yes. All right, we can go to the next slide. Hi, my name is Dr. Debra Mason. I'm here in regards to the Community Public Safety Initiative. I just wanted to start out with going over the responsibilities of the Wilmington Street Team. is to provide services to East Side and the Prices Run, wraparound services, and services to high-risk individuals. Some of the things that the Wilmington Street Team is responsible for is mediations, community encounters, community passage, response, responding to incidents in the community, connecting community members to resources in the city. We also work closely with the Wilmington Community Advisory Council in regards to public safety roundtables. They are responsible for overseeing those. Next slide, please. Again, the zones that we cover, Prices Run would be zones 1 through 4, and East Side is zones 5 through 8. Next slide. This is a recap from last year. We ended the year on a high note where we decreased crime in our 2 districts, District 13 and District 11. District 13 went down by 1%, and District 11 went down by 18%. Next slide, please. This is our community counters from the report that I did for the first quarter of 2024. This was the number of community counters that were conducted for the first 90 days of the year. Outside of zones 1 through 8, it should be noted that 38, I believe that's 38, were completed. That just really goes to show that it's really imperative that we provide services throughout the city of Wilmington, not just in zones 1 through 8, because those services are still needed outside of zones 1 through 8. Next slide, please. This shows the amount of dispatch calls that were collected from January through March. As you can see, zones 4 had a large number of dispatch calls, and zone 8. Zone 8 is where the shelter is, and that causes a lot of issues in that area. But I just want to say that the Center for Structural Equity has really done a lot of work down there in feedings and different events in that area. Next slide, please. The impact from this year, this just goes to show how data is collected, that the community encounters across all zones is collected, and those are compared directly to the dispatch calls in the area. And then the box down below shows the months and the amount of encounters that are conducted and the amount of dispatch calls that are reported by Wilmington Police Department, and the amount of incidents that also took place in those months. Next slide, please. This is really important to really document the hub that is on 914 North Pine Street. So much happens at this location. During the first 90 days of the year, 173 people were serviced in that area, in that hub. Different things that were provided were bus passes, clothing, diapers, employment assistance, food, and assistance with washing clothes. Also, individuals are allowed to take showers at that hub. We had a young lady who came over here to take a shower, and she had no clean clothes, no clean underwear, and all that was provided to her as well. We are working on a second hub at 2214 North Market Street, and hopefully that will be open by July 1st. Also, community events are taking place in the East Side and in Prices Run. 22 community events took place in the first 90 days. Those included a chili cook-off, an Easter egg hunt, an MLK community dinner. Very interesting that at the chili cook-off, there was an individual who overdosed outside, and one of the members who was here earlier actually went out and provided Narcan to save that person's life. After he saved their life, he brought them into the hub and gave them chili, and they ate with us. So this just goes to show the amount of work that's being done in those areas. Next slide, please.
I have a question, Madam Chair.
Yes.
That's okay. The address on 2214 Market, what's that now? What building is that currently?
What? I'm sorry.
The hub that's going to be on 22nd and Market, what is there now?
It's
What
just
was there?
it was another location for another organization.
Okay.
And I spoke with the gentleman. He runs the organization called Teams.
Okay.
And he agreed to let us be in that area.
That's good. Okay, thank you.
Yep. So we do have individuals who were here earlier to talk about the impact that they have made on the community, Network Connect and CFSE. We still have individuals here from CFSE that can just really talk about some of the impact that they've done in the community. The biggest thing is that individuals that come to the hub are able to get services and they don't have to fit within a certain criteria. Last week we had an individual who was provided a train ticket to go back to Baltimore. She is addicted. She's been on the streets for many, many months. We tried to we did get her, the case manager did get her into treatment, but she left. And the case manager spoke to her daughter, and her daughter agreed that she could come home, but she had to get her own way there. So a ticket was purchased for her, and she was sent back to Baltimore, and she did get there safely. There was also another lady who was there that same day who wanted to get into treatment, and she was able to get into treatment as well. And that was a group effort to get the lady into treatment. She also had witnessed the shooting that took place over on North Side and was very distressed, and we were able to get her some services. So those are just some of the things that go on with Wilmington Street Team.
Okay.
Next slide. And then that's it. I know I moved relatively quickly, but if you have any questions, I would gladly answer them. And we also have some members here. If you have any questions, they can answer them as well. We also provided the quarterly report for the first 90 days from the Wilmington Street Team. We have seen a spike in crime, which is, it's the summer, and this is when it happens. We are actively trying to figure out a way to, address the individuals who are not only victims of those shootings, but also the individuals, the family members of those individuals as well.
Okay. All right, thank you. Did anyone have any questions for Dr. Mason before we allow the other organization members to speak? Okay.
No.
Yeah, I said, well, I've actually, I've heard, your presentation before. I was really glad to be able to see some of the other members of the organization come, and so they could tell us about some of the things that they've seen. Okay.
Lavosha Wolf, or Gundy, y'all wanna speak or say anything?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
This
Thank
is
you.
Lavosha Callahan from Center for Structural Equity.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Lavosha Callahan. I'm from the Center for Structural Equity. Some of the impactful things that the Wilmington Street Team has done through Districts 11 and District 13, Prices Running East Side, are providing like a community element back to the community, being there for the community in an effective manner, such as little things as just providing an ear to listen to from community members when they're in perils or when they're in a disarray. We provide services such as Narcan kits. Every Friday at the Center for Structural Equity, we provide free barbecue for members to come out to eat. Narcan kits are provided. Services are provided. If there's an issue, if they need with transportation, we provide transportation for these community members. And non-judgmental, I might want to add that as well. We're not looking down our noses at people that are going through such situation as unemployment, such situation as homelessness. We try to provide situations where we can aid and assist and just help their situation to be a little bit better. In these times where people face a litany and a whole list, a laundry list of things that they're going through, sometimes just the simplest of things can help an individual get through that. And what I've learned is it's better to give than try to receive all the time. So that's what we try to do with the Wilmington Street Team. There's been situations where we had to come to the aid of people who may be in an overdose situation. There's been situations where we had to make sure a person got to a job interview, provide a situation where people had something to wear to the interview. So the simplest things that people take for granted that normally people would have, and things would seem like they would be already ready accessible to community members, sometimes they're not. So we try to be in the gaps when people don't have that. And the Wilmington Street Team provides mediation for preventable violence situations, or if it's a situation escalates to where it's too violent, we try to step in to say, in the simplest of terms, just for the sake of time, is it worth the bloodshed? One of our things that we spoke about a couple days ago at the office was, in the times of peace, you got to have feet on the ground in mediation. Because when it's a time of disarray and it's a time of when, so to speak, individuals throughout the city are at some type of war or disagreement, sometimes you're playing from behind. So what we try to do with the Wilmington Street Team is act as a mediator in times of peace to keep times peaceful. Now, if this was the magic solution to all our problems, it would be a kumbaya situation and everything would be peaceful throughout the city. But that's not always the case. But we give it our best effort and we put our best foot forward to try to keep perpetrators of violence and victims of violence for that not to happen. And we try to do that through mediation and through a peaceful manner before it gets turned into a violent situation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Cowan. Okay. And that, wait a minute, that was CSC's, Center for Structural Equity. Mr. Chambers, did you have anything you wanted to add?
My name is Daryl Wolfie Chambers. I'm the Executive Director of the Center for Structural Equity. And what I would say was this, that what we strive for is a healthy community. In a healthy community, if you had the two variables, and the two variables is shooting, increase or decrease, and mediation or encounter, increase or decrease. In a healthy community, what we want is low shootings and low mediations. And what we call an unstable community, what you have is high shootings and low mediations. So what does that mean right there? That means people just ain't doing the work, right? So to move from stage 4 to stage 3, what do you need to do? You just need to increase the mediations they encountered, right? So try to come to some sort of head of what's going on. And hopefully that right there would transpire to what we call zone 2. In zone 2, what we want is low shootings and high mediation. What does that mean? That means our intervention is working. But when we have that right there, what you set yourself up for is a system. And the system leads to that healthy community where you have low shootings and low mediation. And the reason why I say this is that we had success in zone over on the park side, which I believe is Council Matter District, partially a lot of zone 3, Council Matter District 3. And we have what we have on the other side, which is part of Council Matter District 4 and 3, right? We've seen decreases in those areas. But we also seen some increases in areas outside the areas that we will actually scope the work in. So it's a moral obligation, really, of the council to provide funding so that we can be in those different areas where we're seeing the increase at. And I know that there have been members of council who have asked that money be put aside so that we continue to do these efforts in other sides of town. Because as Mr. Callahan stated, it's easier to negotiate and deal with people during time of ease. Once that time of war starts, then you need a whole different methodology to tackle this problem. So I'm only saying this right here. As the summer months come and we get out of that time of peace and we start seeing increases, in some of them areas where we're not, don't be surprised. Because as a council, you guys have the ability to make sure that we get some of that funding. I know it's not your sole responsibility. Yes, sir.
Yes, you may speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers. Good to see you. Where is there a specific shortcoming that you're referring to, or is there a specific program not getting funded, or like what is the most actionable request we can make for you?
So the Wilmington Street Team is only responsible for certain geographical location within the city. And as I said before, it's east of Market Street down to Riverside, from I believe somewhere like 33rd Street all the way over to the Brandywine. That's one zone, and that zone right there is the area that used to be controlled by the YAP. From south of the Brandywine all the way down to the train station, from King Street all the way down to Church Street, those are the only areas we cover. Because that right there is the only money been put aside for the Wilmington Street Team to cover. So think about it. That's the whole west of 95 that's not being covered, right? That's areas north of 33rd Street that's not being covered. That's a whole chunk of land that's not being covered. But we as a group, because you see in the slide, it said 38 encounters outside of those zones right there. It's because I tell my team that it's a moral obligation that when you have a program that's in place that's seeing impact, you got to move it over there. So even if we got to do it at bare knuckle minimum, we got to go in them areas to make sure that those people over there, because they don't want to see their children die either. So it's imperative to us to make some sort of move so that we can be funded so that we can go over there.
Well, okay. I did want to have one thing to say, President Congo. So I do understand exactly what you're stating, and when those ARPA funds were actually put in place, the reason why they used the word pilot, because I guess they wanted to make certain that we address the hotspot where the most issues were happening, and then also to see whether or not we can actually make some type of impact. And it's been proven, you know, we're starting to see the impact. Unfortunately, it seems now we've actually lost an organization, it seems. Like you're saying, was YAPS or whatever. So I'm like, I just wanted to make certain that I got that information out, because that was something that was brought to my attention. I want to make certain that we are addressing that when we can.
Okay.
President Conga.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just following up on Councilmember Spadola's question, like what would the ask be? Like if there's a financial ask that you would ask of council, what would that be?
So I will have to sit down with Dr. Mason to see what the true cost is. I know that what we currently have, it will we will need to upscale our current services, which means that you need more people on the ground. But you also need the same type of training that we got. Like we got nationally recognized training. So all that right there will come into there. Not sure how fast you would need it, but I'm sure that there's a way, Doc, that we can get together and that we can map something out for you far as a budget or what the cost would be, so that right there we can get that to you.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Okay. All right, so if there's...
Madam Chair.
Okay, yes.
Councilmember Bracy has her hand raised.
Okay. Councilwoman Bracy.
Thank you. First, I want to say thank you to Dr. Mason and to Mr. Chambers for all the hard work, and for Sierra, who's not here with Network Connect, for all the hard work that you guys are doing. It's exceptional, and I've been beating this drum for a while that we need to be proactive about how we expand the work that you guys are doing into other parts of the city. So thank you for bringing this up. Hopefully we'll be able to start having those conversations sooner rather than later. I know that there's funding now until 2026 with the ARPA funds, but that's only to cover the parts of the city that you're in now. And as there are needs in other parts of the city, I know that you guys have been exploring other ways to find funding. But as much as we can be supportive in that process, and whatever we should be doing to make sure that the work that you are doing not only continues where you are, but expands throughout the city, I would love to be a part of those conversations. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Did anyone else have anything to say? Oh, someone else? Okay. Ms. Basnight.
Yes, Madam Chair, I just wanted to mention for the record that when this program initially started, it was an idea from council, that council was behind the original funding. So I just wanted to share that, you know, just so that the public or whoever's watching is aware of that as well. It was always a council initiative.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you for making certain that you stated that. I don't think a lot of people are aware. I said, I know I've always told Dr. Mason, I chose your resume. I think she's been doing a great job and definitely keeping us informed about what's been going on. So I do thank you. And that's the reason why I actually wanted the partners to come in to hear more about what's actually happening over on the northeast and east side.
Okay.
All right. So like I stated, if there was no one else who had anything else to state, I was going to, yeah, it's been a long one. I'm going to bring this to a close. I said, so I would like to say thank you all for joining us. It has been, been very interesting. And I will see you next month. And before that, we'll probably see you on June 20th. So if I can please get a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion.
All right. Can I get a second? All right. It's been moved and seconded. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much for joining us, Wilmington. You have a great evening.